Eyes up, Guardian. It's time to get another look at a Destiny and Nerf collaboration. This time we have the Ace of Spades. Now, for those unfamiliar, the Ace of Spades is Cade 6's main weapon. And if you still have questions about who Cade is a central figure in the game, whether he's been alive, dead, reborn, or whatever. This also marks the second time Destiny has gotten a Nerf limited blaster, the first being the Gallarhorn, which was sold exclusively through the Bungie store. The Ace of Spades is similar as well. I really need to unbox this thing. I want to talk about what I like, what I don't like, what I would have changed. This is exciting for me because somebody who loved Halo, who loves Destiny, who enjoys the Bungie style of FPS game, I want to get a look at this blaster and see what it's all about. The first thing about unboxing is you'll see so many different references to Destiny with this. Now on the top here we have the different Vanguard logos, and we have other symbols that mean different difficulties. We also have just some weapon perks on the back. It's been a while since I played Destiny, so I can't exactly remember what all of these are. Everything packaging-wise is great, and of course we have our shiny version of Cade 6 holding the Ace of Spades there. And yeah, I mean, this looks like a good package. The other cool thing here too is that there is a deck of playing cards. I'm assuming that is where the darts are going to live, but I just love the packaging on that. It's just a nice touch, which is something that Nerf limited blasters should be about. And lifting it open, it definitely has a wow presentation factor. And yes, the darts are in this. This is cool. Let's get a closer look. It has the Nerf limited logo on that side. Ace of Spades, we have Destiny on the open and closed sides. And that's it, though. The back side is plain. Huh, okay. And now let's get the Ace of Spades out. This is pretty cool. Not a whole lot of packaging here, but the packaging that is here is done very well. And this is kind of situated a little, so let me get this out without trying to clumsily fumble it around and then likely drop this thing. But I did get it out, but I wanted to show you that underneath this plastic bubble, there isn't anything under there. So if you're looking for any sort of other Easter eggs, not there. Just leave that insert in there if you want to keep this all boxed up and nice. I don't know, the jury's still out on this one. I still have my Aliens Nerf Limited blaster in the box because I think that helped tells the story. This one, I'm not quite sure. It looks like a nice box, but yet to be seen on that. But look at the blaster. This is the Ace of Spades out of the packaging, out of the box, out of the blister. It is a big, giant hand cannon, which is great because this is what we would expect to see from Destiny. It feels a little large, but then again, I am not a Guardian. Maybe I'm the one who's just too small. But the biggest difference that I see about this blaster is that it doesn't use traditional paint application. It uses that printing technology directly onto the blaster. So what we have here are some really fine details that just get applied directly to the plastic without any sort of paint application. That's really cool to see. But I do want to note, there was some controversy with this blaster. You see, the design of it was apparently inspired a little too closely from somebody from the Destiny community. It seems like Bungie, Hasbro, and the community member worked something out, but it was kind of interesting to see the controversy before this even came out, and I'm assuming if you were somebody who created the original artwork of this, that would be a little shocking. Now, we do know some of the limitations of this technology, and it does show around the top. You can see that the printing technology fades towards the top of this blaster, and I would have liked to have seen that carried over. I don't know when that upgrade in this technology will happen, but hopefully it will someday, because as it stands now, everything looks great about this blaster except where the seams are. Again, that's something that we've come to expect with this printing technology. When you look at it straight on, when you have like a good look at the Ace of Spades, it is an impressive blaster, and it does pair well with the Gallarhorn. I'll get that out a little bit later because I think we need to have both, right? A power weapon and our primary. How does this open? You pull back on the hammer here, and this part should eject down. So let's see how this works. You do get two of these cylinders, so we can load up this blaster twice. You drop the cylinder in it, feed it back up, and then you have your next round of darts ready to go. I did mention this is a flywheel blaster, and the batteries on this are right here. So I'm gonna have to install some of those. It's 4 AA's, that'll give us kind of an idea about the power behind this blaster. And with this barrel, the length that it is, I'm guessing that we're going to take a performance hit too, but the point of this isn't performance. I think the point of this blaster is game accuracy, having like a piece of the game, and based on a lot of the other video game property stuff that Nerf puts out, I think the Venn diagrams of like video game fan and Nerf fan are a lot closer to being perfect circles than a lot of people think. But we need batteries. Hold on for that. Batteries sit in the barrel of this thing, which creates an interesting problem. It's very top heavy, very front heavy. So this is going to be naturally diving down. That's just going to have to be part of the weight distribution that you contend with when it comes to the Ace of Spades. I don't know where else the batteries could have sat, because when you have something like the grip, you have a lot of mechanisms here that rotate and actuate and whatever to get the blaster going. So I think this is probably the only area that they could have had the batteries. I think if there was a rechargeable battery here, that might have been something that I would have changed, knowing that it was going to increase the cost of this, because you could then place it a little more strategically and then just use a little bit of wire for the USB charging. But I did mention cost. This was about $50. Again, you could order this if you completed certain missions within Destiny 2, like the latest version of it, earlier than most people, and then got opened up at a later time. That's when I purchased it, because I haven't been following Destiny to its story conclusion. But now let's load some darts in this thing. So we are going to get this loaded up, and now I want to see what these darts look like. This is just a great presentation. Oh, okay, so it's like impact zone darts. And we are just going to put those in. How are these going to feed in? Yep, okay. Now, if you have played Destiny 2, leave a comment telling me how far you've gotten in the game or when you dropped off, because it was kind of an exciting year for Destiny, with everything wrapping up with the final shape and how that all kind of shook out. I followed along with some of the story YouTubers about all that kind of stuff, but I didn't have time to play Destiny 2 this year because well, I was a little busy making stuff happen. But now we got this cylinder loaded. Let's put this back down. And what you'll notice is that when I rev this and I squeeze the trigger, the whole cylinder will index every shot. Let's try it out now, and we'll get it going. All right, well, that's a familiar old sound there. And one. There we go. Many of those fishtailed out of the barrel. Let's try that one more time. I want to see if maybe this was like the first go jitters for the Ace of Spades here, because that was kind of weird. They really just, they went wild, and these are the darts right out of the box. I don't know what's going on there. All right, we'll push those all the way as far back as they can. That way they're flush with that I'm guessing is going to be the most optimal operation with this. Or maybe it's squeezed too far forward. I don't know. That's why we're reviewing these things, right? So we'll put that in. Performance, again, what we expected, but let's see if we can't get these darts to fly a little straighter. There we go. I did get some better performance out of the second round of darts. Maybe it was just the blaster needing to warm up. I honestly don't know what was going on there. But performance-wise, you saw that it was a little lackluster, so I think we've already discounted that, right? Like, if you're looking for a performance-based blaster, this is not it without some heavy modification. This is a great prop blaster, though, and I think that's what we need to talk about next. Now, as of late, Nerf has done an amazing job with what I consider prop-style blasters. We have things like the Halo Needler up there. We have things like the Mandalorian Ambin sniper rifle over here. I have other blasters around the studio that are that level of prop. And in fact, there's one from Destiny, the Gallarhorn. Yeah, this Gallarhorn right here, the rocket launcher that is absolutely massive, and I'm glad I didn't knock over all of my G.I. Joes because I didn't think about that. So we have precedence within the Destiny world, we have it in the Halo world, both Bungie created properties, but we have this history of these prop style blasters. Now we are at the Ace of Spades. And I think this takes it into another new direction because we have that printing technology on this blaster that allows some details to shine through. We have the scuff marks, we have the weathering. It's already baked into the file that gets then printed on the shell. But I think what ends up getting missed is these little details in the corners. These are printed on. They are not plastic injection molded. Now imagine that being on the Gallarhorn, because it could have easily been the case, right? These pieces, while not the signature gold, these are the Nerf orange, they stick out. They feel like substantial details on the blaster where they are molded directly into how this is constructed. This, on the other hand, is a little bit different. It's printed. And that comes with trade-off. The trade-off being that this for a Nerf limited blaster is relatively inexpensive. We have a relatively game-accurate prop for $50, which for a flywheel-based blaster, one that has 4 AA batteries, like you can count the cost of blasters that have come before it, things like the Strife, right? We get things like Thunderbolts and Spectrums for like around $20. And if you think that, okay, there's going to be the video game franchise tax that gets put on top of this, and then you also have the Nerf limited line, so you're making fewer of these. Like, this isn't a mass market thing. This is geared specifically for a niche group of people. I think $50 is extremely reasonable for something like this. But it does come with that trade-off of not having some of these details molded into the blaster. They're printed on. They look great, but they're not like what has come before. Now, the other interesting thing about the Ace of Spades is we're using 2 different styles of plastic here. So for the most part, grip, main body, we are using it's a matte finish. And I think that might help the printing technology process go a little easier. It's got something to grab into. But then on this cylinder, it is a very shiny, very reflective plastic, as well as the top. And then anywhere where it's printed, it has more of that. It's not even a matte texture. It's almost like an eggshelly kind of texture where there is some feel to it. It's not perfectly smooth. Now, that might annoy some people. Me, personally, I don't mind it. I think it gives it some visual distinction. You can see that this cylinder is a unique part that moves. It is part of the operation of the blaster, where everything else is more of an aesthetic choice, an aesthetic piece of the blaster. All right, so we've gotten kind of a look at this blaster together. So what are some of the things that I love about it? Well, for starters, it's got a wonderful look to it. This is a fairly game-accurate representation of the Ace of Spades, and in fact, purchasing this allows you to get this skin in Destiny 2, so if you have the Ace of Spades, you can put this look on that blaster, and that blaster then is you see what I'm saying? Like, there's a cool integration here. The other piece that I like is that it is relatively inexpensive for a Nerf limited blaster. We've come to expect more accuracy, and I'm not talking about like dart accuracy, I'm talking about accuracy to the original item, wherever from pop culture it's being pulled from. But with this printing technology, as well as just being a smaller blaster, I think that affords a lot of opportunities for this to come in at a much more reasonable price compared to some of the other blasters. I mean, that basically oversized Jolt was $120 when it first came out. It was a little wild, right? I mean, now you can probably find these on thrift store shelves, but coming in at almost a third of the cost, that's pretty cool. Now, a couple things that I would have changed about the blaster, I would have baked in some more detail, even if it costs a little bit more. So some of these little scrolly details around the trigger well or around the cylinder, I would have liked to seen those raised or recessed so that it just gives it a little different texture. That the blaster has that same feel as the Gallarhorn, because those two are going to be paired together whether people like it or not. I mean, they're both from the same game. And the other thing I would have changed is like just finish the process. So where you see this fading right on the top of the blaster, just wrap it around somehow where you're able to just get that full, complete look. I don't think it's as necessary on the bottom of the blaster, but the top, because that's where you're looking down, that is the more visible part. And here's a couple things that I don't like about the blaster. One is the performance. And again, like, this isn't a big ding against it, but like, it is a Nerf blaster. We do have templates on how these things work and operate. I know that this isn't going to be used in any sort of Nerf battle. This is going to be a showpiece, a display piece. It's going to be living right over there so that it's just cool to look at. But having the darts just wildly spin out of control for a lot of the tests that I've done with this thing was like a super big bummer. I would have hoped that it would have performed just a little bit better. And I'm wondering if it has anything to do with just the really long barrel here, because we have the flywheels right here. This whole part right, like that is a big solid chunk of barrel where the dart can knock around and just not fly all that well. And I think what would have probably helped that is just another 2 batteries, having 6 AA batteries. But that's like the final thing that I don't like about this blaster, is that the balance feels off. And if we would have added 2 extra batteries, it would have increased performance, but it would have just been even more awkward to hold. Because as it stands, like holding this thing out, doing like some cool guardian poses or whatever, like it's just going to be weighted down like this. You're going to be fighting gravity whether you like it or not. I mean, overall, I like it. And again, it's going to show well. It's going to be a cool display piece. But beyond that, I don't know. I like, it's adequate, I guess. It fires darts. It does the objective of what a Nerf is supposed to do, where you're flinging darts, but it's not the best experience that I've ever had. And I think ultimately for something Nerf limited, where we're pulling from pop culture, where we're trying to pull the most accurate details out of it, that's okay. I think that's okay. I think I would have felt worse about this blaster if it would have cost more, but I think it's right at the proper threshold between a lot of the compromises that a blaster like this has to make to be game accurate, and just how Nerf blasters have evolved. Even with some of the performance issues that I have with it, it is still a more practical blaster to use than the Gallarhorn. It's extremely impractical. Where, I mean, but you see where this is going, right? Like the Nerf Limited line isn't designed for that. It's just designed to be like a really fun toy that operates and works, that looks as close as possible to the thing it's supposed to. But I don't know, you let me know. What do you think about the Ace of Spades? Did Nerf Limited take a step backwards, or is this a good new direction where the blasters are a little more accessible, a little more familiar, and able to replicate a lot of the details without increasing the cost wildly? Really curious to hear your thoughts. And if you like blasters, I mean, we just talked a lot about this singular blaster here, but there are a lot more. There are a lot more blasters that I talk about. I also talk about pop culture, action figures, and collectibles. I also think that encapsulates everything about this too. So if those things are interesting to you, as they are to me, you definitely want to hit that follow, subscribe, like, comment, share, whatever it takes to get more videos like this, because I continue to make videos about all those things. So for me and the Ace of Spades, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.